when do you think enough is enough?
After 10 years of over consuming, and then you realize you just want to be in a deep sea fishing boat. That's when.
Are you collecting gear or searching for the perfect item for you? Weigh in, period. Okay, we'll
All right.
weigh in.
All right.
You're the boss now.
All right.
They said, this is my daily carry for winter months. They usually have a coat for the climate in Canada, so it's easy to carry all this without feeling bogged. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Carry the Way, the weekly podcast where we nerd out about all things EDC gear and maybe try to teach you a thing or two while we're at it. I'm Bernard, the founder of everydaycarry.com, and I'm joined by our editor, Mikey.
Yo.
So if you're new to the show, welcome. Here we talk about the latest in EDC gear, answer questions from the community, and review pocket dump submissions from our viewers. And if you've listened before, we just want to say thanks so much for all the support. And just a quick reminder to give a like to the video and subscribe if you haven't already, as it really helps the channel. So let's start with the usual. We usually start with a pocket check. Are you carrying anything new this week, Mikey?
New that I haven't shown, probably the Around Square base. Surprise. It's I just got the second point? The drop point. I got the alternate one to the original Tanto. Not much different, except a lot different actually. The sandblasting for it is a little different. It's got a bit more texture to it now. I also got the one with a clip on it, just so I can differentiate with the non-clip Tanto that I originally have.
Yeah.
So lightweight S35 VN titanium, everything I could want from a small pocket knife that's perfect for EDC, and that's kind of like the only thing that's I've been mixing up these days. Which actually, okay, before I let you talk about your pocket check, I am kind of curious about how it's going to look, or how our audience perceives if we don't promote consumerism and always talking about the latest and greatest and shiny new thing. What if would it diminish our authority or our how interesting we talk about things if we're not always like neck deep in the latest and greatest and the newest stuff? I am curious if that kind of lowers our authority, if that kind of lowers the respect people have for us, or if people will have a perception that we don't know what we're talking about just because we don't have the latest and greatest thing. That's got me thinking, because it's going to be a bit of a boring pocket check for me for the next few months, because I'm really doubling down and really just maximizing and enjoying what I have. So I'm curious what the audience thinks.
That's a very interesting question. And I know I'm not the audience, but I am your host or your co-host. Mm-hmm. And that brings up a lot of thoughts from me personally. I think, so you're kind of worried that if you don't have the latest and greatest rotated into your pockets all the time, then the community might not perceive you as somebody who is knowledgeable and an authority on these.
Not that they do, but
I think people do. Yeah. Well, I would say first, I think this is a pretty cozy podcast, and a lot of the people that tune in, I don't think they're really looking for us for that anyway. And I think a lot of people might appreciate the fact that we're not trying to put the latest and greatest in front of their faces, shove it down their throats and say, you have to buy this or else you're not a real man or something, right?
Fair.
I personally enjoy that that we have that dynamic just on the show. So I think there's going to be a bunch of people who will be okay with that. And there will be so many other things that we can talk about and even open up the discussion for. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. And then just to reassure you, I would say, what do you have to prove at this point? Right. It's been like, 15 years? You've been doing this for 15 years. And I think before, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later, but 10 years ago, people weren't expecting you to have the latest and greatest in your pocket check all the time. And if anything, it's more trustworthy if you've used something for very long, because that is more of a testament of the durability, functionality over long-term use, which is what EDC used to be about. I'm not saying that it isn't anymore, but I think people might lose sight of the fact that, hey, a lot of this stuff is designed to last decades.
Right.
And it's supposed to be used every day. So it kind of defeats the purpose, or maybe takes away from the value of, say, a CPM Magnica Super Steel. If you use it once for an Instagram photo or a Discord, picture, and then just put it away, Like, it's
True.
okay if you keep using it. I think there will be value there. I think people might come around to that more, and maybe we'll just do this right now, and we do like, oh, you know what's in 2025, using the same thing every single day, like forever. So
Right.
that's fine. And I think we may have gotten ourselves into this predicament where we
Right.
thought that because we're on a podcast where every week we're expected to bring something new,
Yeah.
that we think that we have this expectation that we should be doing that. Maybe the audience doesn't care. And maybe a
Right.
lot of the audience, this is their first time seeing us, and they
Yeah.
don't realize we have like 60 episodes by now and that it changes every week. So
Mhm.
I think you're good. And I support you in not changing your EDC that much. I was going to ask though, well, I will pause. And then do you have any responses to that? Because that was kind of a lot.
No, that's a good way of putting it, and I think we've mentioned it a while, like a couple of times before, that we also, in addition to celebrating that side of EDC where people get to show off forms of expression, pretty objects that you can share and enjoy and keep around you, there is also that whole, I would you say, peak aspect of EDC where we highly respect people who've worn the same watch for 60 years, people who have put hours and hours into the same knife, reprofiled it so that it's like a completely different blade shape
Mm-hmm.
already, and using the same flashlight reliably for the past 10 years. There is that mountain of respect we put in those types of carries that we see out in the wild. And I always say that when we see like a working person or like a people who are working in heavy industries or like people who are in service, and we see their EDCs, that's those, I hold those in higher regard than people who are just,
Mm.
collectors.
Interesting.
And
I don't know if
yeah.
I hold that in higher regard. I know a lot of people, at least there's a vocal majority, it
Mhm.
seems, of people on the internet at least, who want to see wear on your gear as if it's some kind of qualifier to validate your EDC as being legit, right?
Mhm.
And then otherwise, your EDC is just the product of consumerism.
Right.
That's a whole other
Right.
can of worms. But I think
Yeah.
what I want to open up the possibility to is that there are many ways to express appreciation for gear.
Mhm.
And I think there is a place for people who are interested in everyday carry, but they might not be the hardest users, right? Because let's face it, not everyone has the same job, the same task, the same life, and the same level of involvement with their gear in that sense. So I don't want people to shy away from the hobby if they're like, oh, well, I'll never have a like gear that I'm gonna beat to hell. And some
Mhm.
people, maybe they just don't like beating their gear to hell. Maybe
Mhm.
they just like keeping it pristine and appreciating the design of it that way, and they that's just their taste. I can
Mhm.
see that too. So while you're right in that I do have a lot of respect for the people that really put their gear through the paces over a long period of time, I think
Mhm.
that's just one way to use your gear. And there's also the people that have sick, insane, like matching sets that are curated, that are rotated as entire sets.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of effort and research and knowledge involved in creating a cohesive EDC, even if they're more like new stuff that gets swapped out often. It's still the concept of practicing having this system of gear. And a lot of people, I think, even today, are still pedantic about the semantics of EDC. Oh, you don't carry that every single day in your pockets only, and it can't like repair or damage, then it doesn't count. Like, whoa, I think
That's a
we're
good
maybe past that point.
that's a good episode title, the pedantics of semantics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of what EDC even really
Yeah.
means. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still stand by, I think EDC is behind the intention. I think
Mhm.
if you're carrying a bunch of things with the intention of they're curated, they're about you, they're for you,
Mhm.
and
The
they
person,
help
not
you in
the
some way, yeah,
the person, not the gear.
yeah, then I,
Yeah.
I think that should still count as EDC, and there are many ways to appreciate one's EDC. So with that said, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who maybe will feel like it's a breath of fresh air that you, Mikey, are just holding strong with your no buy and you're just appreciating the stuff you already have.
Mhm.
I think that can be inspirational to some. maybe to some who feel the brainworms telling them you should buy the next thing that you see on Bernard's TikTok. I'm not saying to do that, but you know,
Yeah.
maybe people will appreciate that. So, and I appreciate you even articulating that thought. This was not in the script, not in the show notes. So it kind of came from the heart, I can tell. So I appreciate that. But I did have one question. If we can still talk
Sure.
about gear, though.
Sure.
What is different about the finish? Because on your round square base, because I have the
Yes.
old version with the
Yeah.
clip, and I'm wondering how the haptics and the tactility feel differently now that there's no clip that you can hold on to help flick it out,
Oh no, there is
and
a
you can
clip on
kind of.
this one.
Oh, you did get a clip.
I got the clip, yeah.
Oh, but you didn't
So
have a clip before.
no. So the original
I see.
one was a bit smoother with the way they sandblasted it. This one is a bit rougher. And now that I have the clip also to hang on to, it's easier to flick, reverse
Yeah.
flick
Okay.
both sides. Yeah.
See, that's why, like, even though I would have wanted no clip just for the symmetry and the potential to like fidget it more, like spin it and stuff, I think I actually need the clip for like the practical purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that looks good.
Although flickable on both sides with or without the clip. So let that be it. Don't let that stop you if you're not into a clip. And yeah, and one last thing, I am wearing my watch on my right wrist just to change it up.
Mm-hmm.
I
But you're
realized
lefty.
I'm a lefty, yeah. So
Yeah.
just changing that up for no reason at all. It just it the balance is really weird for me. But I also realized that part of the reason I bang up my watches previously is since I'm left hand dominant. I use it to stop elevator doors. I use it to open
Mm-hmm.
doors. I use it to pick stuff up. So it's the most active arm and therefore the most in the path of objects that I could bang my
Yeah.
watch against. So
I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
the reasoning that people would wear it on their non-dominant hand.
Exactly, yeah. But it's always felt
So
right on the left. So, but I am willing to give it a shot just to change it up and see how that goes. Dealing with the imbalance.
So I will say my dad is a right-handed person, but he
Mm.
wears his watch on his right hand just because he told me growing up in the Philippines, if you wear a nice watch and you're driving and you have the window down because it's always hot, then people can just come up and yank your watch off your wrist since it's on the left side.
And you have to drive like with the elbow out too.
Oh
So
yeah,
you're already
to be
exposed.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
It's rough out here, man. You can be riding in the bus wearing a hat. Somebody just flicks it from the outside. It's gone.
Yeah.
That is a true story.
Yeah. Don't wear
It's
your nice hats out there then. I know
exactly.
you got a collection of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. How about you? Anything new with the pocket check? Any insights, deep philosophical thoughts?
No, actually. Crazy. So I've been currently rocking the Kizer Feweed, I think.
Feweed.
Feweed.
Few.
And I really wanted to like this knife. I still do, but
Mm,
there's one deal breaker that I've discovered about it that I don't hear anyone talk about. I've watched many reviews by now, and
right.
nobody has mentioned this. So, with that said, going back to your previous point, like, what does it even matter? Because there are a lot of these knife reviewers on YouTube like me, and then they don't even touch on this because
Mm,
they're also just doing the top down tabletop view.
yeah.
So, it's just like you kind of got to get the real world experience. And then
Yeah.
this, maybe I can do it on camera. Let me try really quickly
Yeah.
to replicate what I'm talking about. So, if you're listening, this won't really be the most useful clip, but let's see if I can do
First
it
try.
for the folks on YouTube. Yeah.
First try. You can do it.
There we go.
There we go. I was gonna say it's gonna be a skill issue, but so just for people who are listening in audio, Bernard has put.
That was dangerous.
Oh, that is dangerous. Oh, okay, yeah.
So
Half
it took
open.
me
Yeah.
a few tries, but and I even practiced before this.
Yeah.
But it appears that the Kizer Feweed, like, it has a wave function somehow. The front flipper of it, if I pull it out of my pocket in a certain way, I'm not exactly sure how to do it with 100% accuracy to reproduce every time. Did I cut myself? No.
What a
It will
disaster.
deploy. It will deploy, and it's weirdly enough, the safer times is when it deploys fully, right, and locks. That's fine. And I've had that happen unintentionally when I was volunteering at the food bank. Like, I was just taking my knife out of my back pocket just to start breaking down some boxes and stuff. while people were like walking by. So, and I'm aware, like, don't deploy your knife when people are really close to you, but it deployed like fully out of my pocket and I wasn't expecting it. And then to me, that's kind of a deal breaker, you know?
Just to explain to people what Bernard is saying with the wave thing is, it's a patented feature of Emerson knives, where there is something that sticks out from the blade. It's cut out in a certain way where a piece of metal catches onto the edge of your pocket, so that when you pull out the knife in one motion, it opens the knife completely. The thing is, this knife is not designed in that way.
I don't
It's
think it
designed.
is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it is. It's not
Okay.
advertised as a feature, and I would understand why it's not advertised as a feature, because
It doesn't look
it
like it.
like
Yeah.
it's one, it doesn't look like it. Two, it's patented, so even if it were a feature, you would have to name it something differently.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was just able to do it, and now that I couldn't do it on camera, in the front pocket, I do want to try it like one more time. But hey, really quickly, it's editing Bernard here. I realized that I misspoke, and I was talking about the Kizer Feweed having a wave function by way of the front flipper tab. It's actually just because the thumb studs are so chonky and big. They're big enough to catch on my pocket as I withdraw the blade from my pocket. So it's not a wave function. It's not designed in that way, but it is the thumb studs that are catching that cause it to deploy accidentally. I misspoke during the podcast just because I didn't really understand what's going on, but since then I figured it out. Please forgive me. Thanks. Just for everyone else at home, I'm thinking what I might do is just go back to my Spyderco PM3 Salt in Magna Cut.
I am thinking of picking that one up. Somebody has offered it to me, and I'm like, do I need another knife? It's, yeah.
I don't know. So that's the unfortunate pocket check. I still really like this, though. It's unfortunate, but for me, safety comes first, especially the safety of others. So back to the drawing board for the knife for the rest of the year, I think.
Right.
But I got a bunch of stuff coming in, most likely, that I'll mess around with. And I have so many knives from the stuff that Mikey sent over to me, and it's just like I haven't gone through all of them yet. But I really liked the design of this. A strange, unintended. It's not a bug; it's a feature, right? So, or actually, I don't know. It might not be a feature, and it might be a bug.
Yeah.
So if anybody who watches can let me know in the comments if theirs does this, and if this is cool to them, let me know. But for now, I'm gonna put that on the back burner, I think.
Cool. Speaking of new stuff that's coming in to your closet.
Okay.
What's up with the news this week?
Oh, I would love to tell you about that, but first we gotta thank the people that keep the lights on. This episode is brought to you by our parent company, Ridge. Ridge is best known for their premium minimalist metal EDC wallets with RFID blocking technology and a lifetime warranty. But they make all sorts of EDC gear these days, like knives, key organizers, wedding bands, machine pens, backpacks, and hardshell luggage too. I use their products every day, and so do a ton of other people with over 50,000 5-star reviews. They make gear in quality materials like carbon fiber and titanium in a bunch of new matching colors and designs. You can try them out with a 99-day risk-free trial to see if you like them, so upgrade your EDC with Ridge at ridge.com/carrytheway for 10% off your order. And supporting Ridge means you're supporting this show too, so thank you, and thanks again to Ridge for sponsoring this episode. Cool, so let's jump into the news, as Mikey was saying. And I think first we're gonna start.
I'm interested in this first one.
Yeah, we're gonna start with a knife.
I want to get this in hand just to see.
You know, it's potentially painful, but in a different way. So this is the Task Knives Cross Artisan Cutlery Butcherling prototype that I saw at SHOT Show, and just already from Artisan posting this prototype pair on their social media, it's already gotten mixed reviews, mixed feedback.
I think that's fair to say. It's been mixed. It's something.
Yeah, because
it's a lot of things.
Dude, even Tough Knives is like not sure what I think of this, and they like work together on designs and stuff, right?
Right.
That's funny. Some people are like, "This is funky." Wow, I just threw up on my cat. I'm canceling my retinal diabetes eye injections. I'd rather go blind. So there's a bunch of stuff going on, and I don't know if I can even break it down for you, but when I first saw this knife, I thought when it was closed, actually, do they have a picture of it closed? No, maybe just to spare us. Oh, well, you
Oh,
can
that
kind of see
yeah.
it
Mhm.
behind this one, the black one. But when it's closed, it looks like it was assembled backwards because the this hole you can imagine would be a thumb hole, and like the
Mhm.
handle would be down here. But
Mhm.
instead, it's at the end of the blade, and they say it's for pinky deployment. I didn't I wasn't able to deploy it with my pinky using the hole or the fuller, and I just didn't want to risk like slashing my finger open on accident. So I
I
was
don't think I
sticking
have
to the
the
thumb studs and the crossbar lock.
I don't think I have the pinky strength for that.
Yeah. And it is a fairly big knife from what I remember, and it was just very strange.
Mm.
It has titanium multi-layer handles with like interesting kind of, it's almost geometric, but it's actually not. Like if you, it looks like chicken nuggets kissing, you know.
Right.
Sorry, but it kind of does. And then it has like the same motif from the blade at the end is kind of mimicked here in the lanyard hole, but it has jimping at the butt of the blade where the
Mm.
lanyard hole is, but it looks similar to the pinky deployment. I don't know. There's just a lot going on. And then the blade itself, like let's look at the blade a little bit. It's like hollow ground up to this point in the belly,
Mm.
but then it's like psych, let's just stay flat ground, I think. And then becomes hollow again, but like past the fuller. And then the fuller comes to there's like a point here, but otherwise it's truncated. And then
Right.
the top is like almost like, I don't know what you would call this,
Like a
harpoon
dinosaur
cleaver.
head.
Yeah, somebody on TikTok said it looked like a dinosaur, but I forget. They said the name of the dinosaur, but they're like in the worst way possible. I thought that was so funny. So yeah, people got jokes for this one,
Yeah.
and apparently it's causing quite the stir, whatever that means. So there's a lot of people with their own opinions on the aesthetics of it, but
So do you like it, or is it like a hard pass for you?
mm, I was gonna say something like, "Well, I like that it creates discourse within the community." No,
Mm.
actually, I think people can keep
No.
their opinions to themselves, me included.
Right, right.
Uh, but it, however, it is an interesting social experiment almost.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the most generous way to say it, but
Yeah.
I like that it's having people weigh in on something. It
Yeah.
kind of has this like cultural moment to it.
I'm kind of still undecided about it, especially with how the blade is working with the two chicken nuggets kissing,
Hmm.
plus all of these holes and the crossbar, all of these circles and holes that kind of like seem arbitrary. Like there's a row of 5 dots between the two backspacer
Yeah,
screws, and there's also the lanyard hole plus the clip holes.
pocket
There's
clip.
a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of dents and holes, and um, I feel like if you take this blade as an exercise of creative expression for compound grinds, which is what it is, you've
Hmm.
got very strange grinds combined with other strange grinds with different angles, with different attempts at creating shapes and blade shapes, basically.
Yeah.
If you had paired that with the planer, maybe like a more brutalist or a more plain Jane or a more rectangular or boxy handle, and let
Hmm.
the blade be the highlight of the blade of the knife, I think it would have been a bit more cohesive or a bit
I
more
see.
interesting. If it if all you could see, if imagine this blade, and then if it folds
Hmm.
into something like a more simple geometric shape, and all that's sticking out is the head of the dinosaur with a pinky hole,
Sure.
and then you flick it out, and then it's this kind of like beastly compound grind thing, I think would have been much more cohesive,
Palatable. Yeah,
palatable,
sure.
or like
Yeah.
balanced. But now you have this funky Pangea looking continents breaking apart in
Hmm.
the back, plus with the dinosaur head on the front. And then you have these like chicken nugget jimping where the finger troll should be. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of straight lines plus hard hollow grinds in addition to plates and the crossbar lock, which takes up a lot of space. It's a lot. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, it's causing discussion for a reason, and I think for all of those all of those things
Hmm.
combined. But I kind of still like it. I don't know. I'm kind of being blind about the how complicated the handle is, but I really like what the blade is doing, just as an expression of, oh,
Mm.
this is different. There's a lot of things I like. I don't know if they're in the best possible combination.
Yeah.
I like a thumb stud. I like a deployment hole. I like compound grains. I like weird blade shapes. They're all here. If they're all here
Yeah.
aesthetically is the question up in the air. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
did they
mean,
mention how
and
much the knife was?
no, I didn't get official details from what I could remember because it's still a prototype. Like the blade steel, I think wasn't
Mm,
even finalized.
right,
Um, yeah. Dude, the more I look at it, like I'm seeing how this thumb stud is like directly interfacing with the corner of the scale here,
yeah,
and there's like no space to breathe. I'm just like I don't know.
yeah.
I don't.
I
It looks
think,
good on this side, but when it's deployed, like I don't know. Actually,
and then the
this
clip is also
radius
doing a
is
lot.
no. Well, okay, I would say the clip is the single coolest thing on. Well, not the single coolest, but to me, it looks the best. This clip, like imagine if you had the body design language match kind of this clip, where it doesn't
Mm,
have like the chicken nuggets, and it's kind of
just
more
the
of this,
fuller
almost like
style.
a yeah, like rocket ship with like a fuller and then like fins. That I think that looks cool.
Right.
But
Yeah. And that would
anyway,
have been served with a simpler rectangular blade shape. I mean, a handle shape. And
yeah.
then let the clip and the blade be the accents on both ends.
Yeah.
But
Sorry,
yeah,
like I don't have that much information about this. It's
yeah.
not really informative news. It was just us
It just
kind of
broke your
having an
ankles.
opinion. I know. Sorry. Like for the listeners, I wish, especially the listeners, you guys can't even see what's going on, but people on
Yeah.
YouTube, I saw this in person and I was just like,
What are
I
those?
don't know if I like this. You guys now need to experience what I've gone through. So
Right. Yeah.
sorry, you're all
We're in
subjected to
there with
this.
you. We're in there with you for
Yeah.
sure.
I wouldn't call it an abomination, so I won't.
Hmm.
But
Maybe
yeah, it's
misunderstood.
yeah.
Maybe there's a grand design idea here that we're just not seeing. Maybe it's different in hand. Maybe it's perfectly balanced, wonderful for slicing and stuff. I don't
Yeah.
know. It could be.
And
There might be
what I
something
also
here.
imagine happening is
Yeah.
we might be clowning on this now, but then in 15, 20 years when aesthetic taste has changed, people are like, dude, remember when all knives look like the Benchmade bug out and then Artisan came out with the Butcherling and everybody
Right.
clowned on that? Dude, I wish we could go back. And then this thing will be like impossible to find and like trade like it would sell for a lot.
Right.
Um,
Right.
that's kind of how the Benchmade
Ahead of
anthem
its
was,
time
I feel.
is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's probably just ahead of its time and we don't have the taste for it. But
Right. Right.
yeah. So that
I'm
is
gonna see if we can get our hands on it and let we can really decide if it's really, and then it's like 3.7-inch blade and it's like
yeah, it's gonna be
super heavy.
huge and heavy and stuff, and I won't be able to like actually test it
Yeah,
very well. But
right.
uh anyway, so curious what people
Cool.
think about that. I will say Artisan had a lot of cool stuff. Just it that honestly kind of got overshadowed by this one. And I
But
don't
they
know
have a
if I
lot of
could
cool
talk about them.
prototypes. They have a lot
They
of
have
cool
a lot of cool
prototypes.
prototypes,
Yeah.
and they're by Dusty Rhodes. He
Mm.
did the Wizard series that kind of
Mm.
smash hit on Kickstarter, and I am very excited about those. That guy, I think, is kind of like a mad genius. It would
Right.
be interesting to get him on the show. Actually, I don't know what he's like as a person, but his designs are so eclectic yet cohesive at the same time. I don't know how he does it. Maybe it would be fun to pick his brain. But anyway, that's new from Artisan. Why don't we jump into the next one?
Cool.
So this is what we've got next from our friends at Tactile Turn. Their new seasonal release,
Right.
The Groove. Mikey, did you listen to a lot of vinyl?
I did when I was much younger because my
Mm.
parents raised me on the Beatles, the Eagles, very very old school 60s and 70s bands, all on vinyl. I first heard the original Star Wars soundtrack and it's still embedded in my memory, being played on an LP. Just like the opening theme of John Williams sounds fantastic on vinyl. But no, I did not grow up. I could not afford vinyl growing up. I
Yeah.
could I could barely afford cassettes, man. So,
Mm.
but I never really got back around to vinyl with the age of streaming and Spotify and all that. I do love the romance of it. I do love the sound of it, the very warm and
Yep.
tone of it. But yeah, never has been a hobby of mine to go back to vinyl. How about you? Did you ever cross that threshold
Nah,
of
dude. I am
audiophile?
not. I am a nostalgic person, but I miss the era of film cameras and vinyl. So all
Mm,
of that type of analog tech is not interesting to me. I
mhm,
am definitely more of the early MP3 player, CD player, mini disc,
mhm,
digicam, camcorder type guy.
mhm,
But with this seasonal release from Tactile Turn, they are channeling the vinyl inspiration.
mhm.
And I think that's maybe in response to how everybody these days just streams content served algorithmically. And
Yeah,
there's some nice intentionality in the practice of selecting a record, putting it down, and just letting it do its thing. Right.
yeah.
So I think that's what these pens are meant to invoke. And Tactile Turn, if you don't know them, they're like a cool machine shop in I believe Texas, and they make made in USA machine pens. They're one of
Mhm,
the first to do it, and probably still one of the best to do it. And they're known for their signature like tactile ridged pattern kind of thing.
mhm,
That goes along the entire body. So you can't really see it, but you can feel it that
yeah.
there's some texture there for grip.
Mhm,
And then this release in particular adds these bigger, I don't know if you can see it here, but these bigger gaps in the texture. And those are meant to be like the track gaps on a vinyl itself, like a
yeah.
record, right? And then they've also done one besides their standard black Cerakote finish. They've done these more specialized one in a rainbow anodized that kind of looks like a lava lamp, and then it has some branding on the inside of the clip, kind of special.
I
So
will say every time we bring up Tactile on the show that their way of creating limited edition stuff is still my favorite, because how these seasonal releases work is they create this new thing, for example,
mhm.
this groove type of design, and they open it up for 3 months for the quarter basically. And during that period of the quarter, you can order anytime during that period that it's open for orders, and they will make it and you will get it. And then once that quarter is over, they'll never make it again. So there's a chance for everybody to get it if you want it, but it's still quote unquote limited in
But
that
doesn't it sell out?
it some well, in this case there's an exception
Th-
because there's a
this one
limited
sold out.
edition. Yes,
Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
so
This
the
one is
LP is a
limited,
special,
but
yeah.
this one is not.
No, it's
Ah,
not. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So
I
so
see.
this is new. They started doing this I think recently with a pirate one, but so now there's like two layers of it. So you can still get the base one, the original
Oh,
design, but they create kind of like
the
a,
limited production
yeah, the limited of the,
flavor. I
yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. So you can still get the within the
The
quarter, you can
standard.
still get the original standard design, which is still fantastic, I think. My preference, honestly. But
Yeah.
if you
This
want
is
that
not for
little,
everyone.
yeah, if you want that little flare on top, if you want that little um a little bit more limited than usual, or if this is if you're more preferring the lava lamp style, there is the option for you. So that did
Mm.
sell, but not as fast as you would expect from like normal drops where you're attacked by bots and it's gone in seconds and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
God, tell me about it. I'm fighting for my life trying to get the new 85 Jordans. Oh my
Oh no.
god.
Well,
I'm in like
Godspeed to you.
three different raffles. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
sick of drop culture already, I and that's why I always want to bring up the tactile way of doing it. It's
Mm.
limited, but you can get it anytime within that period. There's plenty of time for you to kind of save up and lead up to. I know we know it's an expensive pen. $150 is always kind of like a sticking point because that is a lot considering the thing I've been waving around last episode. This is what, how many
The big.
cents? The
Yeah.
big pen is like pack of 10 for $2 or something. But then this is $150. But like we said at the start of the show, some of the way that Tactile makes these pens, they really are exceptional. You can buy one Tactile pen and have it last pretty much a lifetime if you just take care of it.
Yeah, dude.
And just, yeah.
I have like the oldest tactile pen,
The
uh
original.
the mover and shaker or something,
Right,
where
yeah,
it
wow.
uses,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, where it uses the I forget what they call it, silent knock mechanism or something,
Mhm.
but which they've later moved away from actually.
I
So
know. Yeah.
yeah, to talk more about like the groove bass
Mhm.
pen, I guess there's the standard, short, and mini side clicks. So
Yeah.
these you just deploy by clicking the back, but then you can't click the back again to disengage the refill. You actually press a button on the side and then it disengages. So we'll
Mhm.
move on to the last piece of news here. This is from Streamlight, the MegaStream
Mega stream.
USB flashlight. Yep. Not
Yeah.
micro. We're micro is out. Mega is in.
Mega is in. Yeah, so just from the polar opposite of, we were just talking about how the Artisan Brutalist is like
Jump
extreme
scared. Yeah.
bleeding edge of knife designed Vo Art
Mhm.
Deco styled knife. We bring it all the way back to one of the OGs, Streamlight. MicroStream has been around even before we probably started EDC, and they are still around. They've produced a number of versions of it. They have a USB version of it. There's a
Mhm.
macro stream
Macro.
USB.
Yep.
Now there's a mega stream USB. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this uses maybe a proprietary-ish USB
Yeah.
charging 18650 battery. So it's around that size of a bit larger, but it's still completely the design language of Streamlight, where yeah, it's a bit more
Mhm.
subdued, tactical, more work-oriented
This
flashlight.
is the classic quintessential tactical flashlight to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Well, maybe not super tactical, but like just this design of it,
yeah.
it's no longer a candy bar with a light strip that's RGB, you know,
Yeah, right.
that's just the current meta. This is like keeping it pretty traditional. But what's different on this one then? So, like we mentioned, it has the proprietary USB-C rechargeable battery, right?
Mhm.
But then also it's just bigger and more powerful, I
Yeah.
think, right? So
Mhm.
1800 lumens max on this.
I believe the regular AAA microstream is like 90 lumens, if I'm not mistaken, or 70
Which is
lumens.
like plenty for that size, I
Yeah, for that
guess,
size, for
for
AAA.
what it
Yeah.
does. Yeah,
But if you need a big
but
boy, if you need a
1800,
big
yeah,
brother for it, yeah, here you go.
yeah.
Not that anybody is clamoring for it, I think, but the fact, okay, just to speak to the fact that Streamlight has been around for as long as it has, without there's something to be said about enthusiast level flashlights have come and gone, and
Hmm.
also mass produced very common flashlights have come and gone, but Streamlight has been in it like forever. So
Yeah,
if that doesn't speak to its enduring quality, or it's, you can say it's boring, you can say it's kind of basic, but they're still around, they're still producing lights, they're
but
still,
boring and
yeah,
basic works for what these
exactly,
products are made for. The
exactly,
professional that needs the no nonsense, reliable thing, maybe not the most expensive, and it gets the
exactly.
job done because they're actually doing those jobs, right? So,
Mhm.
wait, that's it sounds kind of passive aggressive, not implying that we don't do our jobs with our fancy flashlights, okay?
No, we're
But
comparing
yeah,
ourselves stuck in a, desk job
yeah,
versus the people who are actually needing the more heavy duty stuff. That,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I mean, honestly, this is not for me just because it's so big. I don't need 1800 lumens
Mhm.
and I need a lot fewer than 150 on low. Like this is going to be blinding,
Ooh, yeah,
I think,
yeah,
even on the lowest setting. So
yeah.
just keep that in mind if you're looking for a high power flashlight. If you need like a quite a wide range of brightness available, I don't know if 150 lumens floor is going to cut it. So
Mhm. So it looks
yeah,
like it's retailing for around $83 or
yeah.
$82. Yeah. So not too bad. I know there are a lot of enthusiast options for cheaper than that, but like I said, Streamlight has been at it for a while, and I have never known or owned a Streamlight that has failed on me.
That
It has,
fails exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it has gotten old, it has gotten beat up. I have given it away, and the people I've given them away to are still using the light.
Hmm.
So all this time, and yeah, that I just want to, yeah, speak to the reliability. And sometimes boring is good. Sometimes you just want, foundation fundamentals. It works. It's powerful. it's gonna last a long time. You know,
Yeah, dude.
sometimes
I
what more
get
do you
it.
really need? Yeah.
I get it. So
Plus, it's called the
next,
MegaStream. I love that they're just playing with
yeah.
the original stream name. Yeah.
So now, I think that wraps it up for our news segment. Um, just kind of, I don't know. I think that was maybe not for everyone. All three products might. Let's hope people are still watching. To be honest, now we're gonna get into
We'll get to the
the
part that
Q.
people care about.
Yeah, we'll get into the Q&A. We'll get into the Q&A section from our community. So every Monday on Instagram, we're gonna post a story or something
Mhm.
where you'll be able to send in your questions. And we did get some feedback from repeat asker that the Instagram box for typing questions is a little bit limiting. So if you have a longer, more involved question, you can always send us an email at podcast@everydaycarry.com.
Yeah.
But why don't we start with what do we want to start with?
Truffle
How about
Noir.
one from a new asker here? So Truffle Noir asks, I really need to stop being so consumptive with EDC gear. When do you think enough is enough?
After 10 years of over consuming, and then you realize you just want to be in a deep sea fishing boat. That's when.
Yeah.
It's really, I think your life position, your life, your now is going to determine your later, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes, I'm not going to deny the fact that the retail therapy is a thing. Sometimes you just want to have cool new stuff, totally fine. Sometimes you just want to collect stuff and enjoy them and have a nice, stuff that you can actually use and enjoy using.
Mm-hmm.
And when enough is enough, yeah, like I said, it's going to be, in my case, it was major life realizations. It's being in a different place where I want to be, being in a different place with how I want to own stuff or the lack thereof.
Sure.
It's truly, I think it's truly a personal decision. I think for a lot of people, it's going to boil down to finances. Honestly, sometimes the hobby just gets too expensive, and you just gotta,
Or maybe
call it
their
quits. Yeah.
significant other that that's who decides what enough is
Right,
enough.
right. Sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes our bigger priorities. What if somebody gets sick in your family? What if you have a new child in the family? What if you have a new pet? Sometimes, your resources start what seemed interesting when you were single and had a lot of disposable income. Now you have
Mm-hmm.
a family,
Not so
priorities change.
disposable. Yeah.
Yeah, priorities change, or desires change. Like suddenly you don't want any of this EDC stuff anymore. Like I know a lot of people who have dropped multiple hobbies and they just move on to other things. It's really, yeah, it really becomes a personal thing. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I think you're right. I want to highlight some of the language just in this question. So,
Mhm.
Truffle Noir says, I really need to stop being so consumptive with EDC gear. And I think
Mhm.
there's a difference between like consuming EDC gear, most likely meaning purchasing and acquiring, and right. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's different when you consider what the intention is, right? If it feels just like consumption and acquiring for the sake of consumption or acquiring, then it might be what, to your point, Mikey, of what you're talking about,
Mhm.
kind of like retail therapy. And
Mhm.
at least for me personally, retail therapy is what I use to distract myself from the discomfort of whatever my current reality is.
Yes,
So if
exactly.
if I'm dragging my feet at work, or if there's some other stressful situation, maybe with my family, then it's just a lot more comfortable for the brain worms to just start nibbling and adding stuff to my cart and looking forward to that purchase.
Yeah.
So I think you can decide when enough is enough when you feel like everything in your life is coming from a place of being okay to start. And if you're looking for EDC gear when you know deep down that it feels consumptive and you already have enough, but for some reason you're still at the checkout page, then maybe you can look at other things and not isolate that to everyday carry purchases. And I know that's kind of outside the scope of what we're like kind of equipped to talk about here, and
Mhm.
maybe not what you're asking, but I think there's some truth to that you can maybe consider. And I do wish you the best with that. But as
Yes.
far as like maybe a more practical take on how to decide whether your EDC is enough, I I tend to think like most people can get by with whatever they have. Like honestly, like EDC stuff tends. I think EDC stuff is easier to tend towards or trend towards being more than you need, right? Because you're carrying things for just in case or to be prepared or have redundancy or have backups. But the
Mhm.
bare minimum of what you need is probably covered without much thought into your EDC, especially in like the modern, you know, modern world.
I have a couple of things here, just to touch on, just to add to what you said earlier. There's something about like the don't do grocery shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah.
The don't look for EDC stuff when you're feeling the itch to buy stuff, because then you're just a slippery slope from there. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
what really helped me the past few months and just like really doubling down and focusing on not consuming anymore, I stopped looking at social media and EDC people sharing. This is kind of a double-edged thing, right? I stopped participating in communities and people talking about gear all the time, and people announcing that they bought new stuff or sharing that they bought new stuff. That is part of the hobby, but sometimes when you want that personal introspection, you really got to isolate yourself and then see what's really important to you, because it's so easy to get to see what other people have, and you feel the FOMO, like, oh,
Yeah.
they got a
You're
cool new
bombarded
bag.
by it.
Yeah. You're
Yep.
bombarded, like, and you're using your phone all the time. It's so easy to open up Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, our podcast, and then
I know.
just see
You
like
just
a
see
brand.
the viewer drop off like when you get to this part of the video, you just see like retention
Yeah.
plummet. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so I think to setting aside a period of time where you can isolate yourself and then really decide if it's something important to you still, and you
Mm-hmm.
still want to if you still want to acquire stuff for whatever reason, then I just want to give yourself a period of a time period of honesty and just isolation, and just like really reflect on that. And finally,
Yeah.
the last thing I want to say here is take a look around you at all of the people around you. How many of them are going about their lives perfectly fine without all the stuff you have? And then
Mm-hmm.
think about, do you really need all of this stuff? Right?
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
really?
okay. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna maybe play. I don't know. I'm just gonna be in Truffle Noir's corner here for a bit,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
to counter that last point, right?
Sure.
Because I know for me, so, say when it comes to watches is usually the thing in the EDC world where I feel like, oh, I want to get this next thing, right?
Mhm.
And you're kind of saying, oh, look around the people, look at all these people that just don't wear watches or wear Apple watches. They get by fine. It's like, yeah, they
Mhm.
do, but I don't want to be like them. I'm not like them, and I enjoy watches, right? And that's
Mhm.
okay. But it comes to a point where, yeah, when is enough enough? And one thing that's really helped me here, and uh, actually, before I get into that, I do want to acknowledge that that is good advice in kind of curbing the consumption of content around the thing that you feel like you need more of, just because that kind of subconsciously or maybe consciously or super consciously feeds that desire, right? Because you're being tempted by it and you're seeing it, and you kind of envision what you don't have by focusing on what you don't have rather than what
Right.
you currently have, right?
The
So
empty
anyway, to
watch
get
box analogy. Yeah.
sure. So to get back to that point, what I've been doing to kind of curb the brain worms when I want a new watch, and this has happened about the SLGW005 that I mentioned on the show. I mentioned in my long form video, all this kind
Mhm.
of stuff. Uh, I'm looking for ways to find ways that I'm disenchanted by that thing and what that thing offers that I don't currently have, and then also appreciate what I do currently have. And the easiest ways to do that is look for the flaws in the thing you think you want, and then look for the things that are good or that you appreciate about the things you already own, and remember why you bought them. So
Yeah.
now I'm wearing the SLGA 021 Grand Seiko, and this, to me, if I think about what the flaws are, it's too heavy and it's too big at 40 millimeters. So that's why I could get a smaller titanium watch, because it's lighter and smaller, will fit myself better. But then I remember that like this has the sickest dial and the sickest movement in it. And that's what I got it for, not the proportions of the case and like, all that kind of stuff. And there are other ways to get that. And then just remember that, like, yeah, I have like a good watch collection and I don't need all this stuff. And I think another thing that you can do besides just completely isolating yourself from that, maybe there's a period where you can pump the brakes a little bit. Maybe you can see something that you enjoy, maybe you add it to your cart or something, but then you just sit on it. But even better is maybe just save a photo of it and you admire the photos of it or something, but you don't actually need to buy the thing to enjoy the thing. And I think
Mhm.
that's one thing that a lot of people could serve to realize, is that you can appreciate something without owning it. And I think, honestly, selfishly, maybe that's a little bit what this podcast is about, and some of the short form videos I make, where it's just like I make a video about a thing, but I don't necessarily have to own it, or we can talk about it on the show, and it's like fun, but we don't have to own it, and we can appreciate that thing, but it doesn't mean that it needs to be in my possession, right?
Yeah.
So there are many ways to appreciate something. Owning them doesn't have to be the only way, and if you're feeling pretty consumptive, I think that is something you can consider.
Sleep on it a little. Basically. Sleep on it.
With that said, Truffle Noir, thank you for the question. You are enough. You are valuable as is. You do not need that next piece of gear, if that's the reason why you kind of want to buy stuff.
Yeah.
If it's a purely practical one, then good luck, dude. I don't know. Like, I think you'll be fine though.
We're still figuring it out. We are still
yeah,
figuring it out ourselves. Yeah. We're
yeah,
right there.
and
We're right
yeah,
there
and
with
we
you.
have been for a long time.
Yeah.
So that's that. The next one is from Bradley Jerg 17. They ask, does the price of an item mean it's more durable when it comes to knives or multi-tools? So I think what they're asking is like, does higher price equate to higher durability or higher performance or just better quality overall, especially when it comes to knives and multi-tools? What do you think about this, Mikey?
I'd say no. There is still an aspect of brand recognition. There is money that goes into marketing and production and
Maybe
R&D
R&D? Yep.
that does not reflect exactly with a knife and the margins it needs to make to be profitable as a business. So there's a lot
Yep.
of, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. Not always, but sometimes. I honestly think there's the variety is way too much now that it's going to be hard to say, because I somebody is going to say that, oh, I've had this $30 multi-tool that has lasted my family 30 years, has been passed down from father to son, and
Mm-hmm.
I have had Leathermen that have the pliers break in the
Yep.
exact same sentence. So it, it's actually tough. Honestly, it is tough, because like you will see incredible value from, for example, Chris Reeve knives. They have a
Mm-hmm.
$500 titanium Magna Cut, everything made in the USA. Great. And then flip your tab, you go to Benchmade, they have a $700 narrows with different specs, but is the Benchmade narrows worth $700 versus the
Sure.
$500 CRK? There's so many factors that go into it, and not a lot of people agree with everything. I have seen knives with really basic steel. I'm not going to name names, but really large, overbuilt, designed knives that are still using old D2 steel with stainless
Mm-hmm.
steel as handles, and they're charging $500 for them. There's so many factors that go into it. So I can't say a definitive answer that higher price equals higher quality, because
Yeah.
there's a luxury aspect to it at one end of it also.
Sure. And even if we
Yeah.
remove the luxury aspect, I think
Mhm.
we can consider then like what are the actual contributing factors to the durability of an
Mhm.
item. Some of it is material, right? Some of it is design. Some of it is craftsmanship,
Yeah.
and the overall execution of the combination of those things.
Mhm.
And I would say generally, if something costs more, it's most likely produced in a facility with like higher fit and finish and just better build quality. So that kind of does help. But then when it comes to things like material choices, right? You might have something that's more expensive because it's made of titanium, but what is the durability you're talking about, right? What if
Yeah.
it's its ability to resist scratches and dents? Titanium is not going to beat steel, for example. Steel is cheaper,
Yeah.
but it's heavier, right? So then
Yeah.
there's just so many different factors to account for then. Um,
And then
eh,
there's also stuff like you can have Magna Cut, but the heat treatment is bad, so it chips or something.
yeah,
There's so many factors into it, honestly.
yeah. So I think maybe the takeaway here is that No, like the price is not necessarily corresponding to in a linear way of quality or specifically durability, especially when it comes to knives and multi-tools that you're asking. So when you see knives that are more expensive, doesn't necessarily mean they are better than cheaper knives. And when you see cheaper knives, doesn't necessarily mean that they're no good either. And even then, like you might see budget knives that tend to promise a lot at a lower price point, but that they might not deliver in that way because one of those intangible things like the execution or QC or whatever is kind of off. And
Mm.
vice versa, maybe you'll see something that really is a good value and worth picking up even though the price is low. Maybe it punches above its weight.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. I would say
The
there's a lot
advantage
more to look
now,
into.
yeah, the advantage now is if you do a search on the knife and look for reviews, there are a lot more people who are in the industry and in the community who could probably give an opinion about a particular knife or a particular brand or a particular manufacturing process. There are ways to look more into the research before you make a purchase. I would say just don't spend something that is too much on something that you're not sure of before you've done your research, because like Bernardo said, there's so many factors that go into pricing, and sometimes it's not going to be equating higher price equals higher better product. Yeah.
I wish life were simpler, but
Right.
alas, here we are. Let's jump into another one from a repeat asker, Creepy Classy. They say, "Are you collecting gear or searching for the perfect item for you? Weigh in, period." Okay.
All
We'll
right.
weigh in.
All right. All right.
You're the boss now.
All right. All right.
Yeah, we'll weigh in.
Yeah.
How about you, Mikey? What do you think?
Now I am just waiting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a third answer. I am.
Okay.
I have been super selective now about the stuff I buy, especially now more than ever after the uh, realizations I've come to over the past few months. Now I'm just watching and waiting for something to really make an impression on me. So I talked about this before. This Beckwith Covert knife, this
Mm-hmm.
really made an impression to me. I saved up for it. I watched so many videos on it. I really did my research about it. I talked with the founders even about it. They um, they had a good philosophy about it with a good design. And when I had it in hand, it was everything I was hoping for. So this really made an impression on me. I'm so happy I
Mm.
picked this up. And now I'm just like that with everything. The rampant flash was another one. I was waiting for that for months. I was really invested in how it was being made, everything that went into it. I was so inspired by it. And then when I got it in hand, it was everything I wanted. And that really felt satisfying for me. Just that
Yeah.
journey of learning about something, being invested in how it came to be and how I it relates to me, and something that uninfluenced by everything else. It's just something organic that I found on my own and is special to me, not influenced by something I saw on social media or anything. And that's my position now for literally everything. Um, when I see something, I now sleep on it. Like we were advising
Mm-hmm.
to Truffle Noir. I sleep on it for a week, for a month, or whatever. And then if I look at it again and it still evokes in me that like that intense feeling that it's giving me, that I must be a part, must have this in my life, and it's worth
Uh-huh.
waiting for or worth saving up for. Those are the moments I'm now chasing. So it's not so much collecting or searching, it's just waiting and seeing, and really waiting for that inspiration to hit, or for the to be inspired by something enough for me to be invested in it.
That's very interesting. I appreciate that answer. I'm sensing kind of like this idea of delayed gratification, maybe.
Somewhat, yeah.
It's
Or
kind
it's
of like
also
that.
some that plus the finding the diamond in the rough that really speaks to just to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not in a complete vacuum, I see something and it's like that thing really spoke to me, and I think that's going to suit me. I think it needs to be a part of my life,
Mm.
and I really want to spend a lot of time thinking about it, researching it, possibly saving up for it, and then when it arrives to me, I'm fairly confident that once it's in my possession, I'm going to really enjoy the heck out of it, because just
Mm.
for all of those factors combined.
I can maybe see that being like a scary prospect for some listeners, right? Because
Mm,
the more you take that time and that space for that feeling, you're also creating a larger risk for disappointment. right?
True. Yeah.
But
I
then
think
but your approach will minimize the risk of disappointment because you're really only going for it when you feel that it really aligns and resonates with you.
yes, and I think I'm
I
also
see.
coming from the position of the experience of already knowing what has worked for me in the past, and I'm like, this feature addresses some of the things I like.
Sure.
I'm willing to compromise on this particular feature, and I also stopped falling into the trap of settling. Like, okay, I'm not gonna get this whatever knife or this flashlight. Maybe I'll just get this other thing first in the meantime while I wait to see if I'm really happy about that one. I'm diverting through
Mm.
that. I'm diverting that path already, and I think that's
Interesting.
a lot of people fall in the journey as people go through as collectors and also as especially in EDC. You're always getting diverted into stuff you want to try or kind of settle or kind of nitpicking about one thing, so you're gonna try something else that maybe not, like trying to do that balance. I've already I know my preferences, I know what I'm looking for, and I know the feeling when something really strikes me. Like
Okay.
it's a very specific and a very special feeling now that I've really thought about stuff, and now that I'm really hyper focused on not over consuming and not over exciting myself, and really sleeping on it and really
Hmm.
taking my time to research and make sure that it's something. I That's a good point though, that I may be setting myself up for disappointment, but so far the past two or three things that I've got, I just total out of the park
Okay.
for my
Sure.
expectations. Yeah,
Tiny sample
yeah,
size, but
yeah,
yeah, I understand.
yeah.
I have a quick question then. If
Mm,
How long does it take you to get to that feeling that you know that this will make an impression?
months
Maybe make an impression is not the right word, because impression is like, to me it's
initial.
brief and initial. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
Right. So how do you, it takes you months to figure out that, oh, this is something that really resonates with me. So
yeah.
it would be different like if you saw that fixie that for the first time, like you saw it, I don't know, on Instagram or something for the first time, and it
Mhm.
said buy now. Like
Yeah.
even though it has all the features and stuff, like you could probably figure out if you would like it in the first, like upon first glance. You would choose not to buy it.
No, no, because it'll give me time to also look at other stuff and then mentally compare it to what I was initially liking. Like how you said earlier, like appreciating the things that of the stuff that you already have, and having
Mm,
keeping that in mind and being appreciative of those compared to what getting something else to maybe fill that need or something.
yeah.
So yeah, it's really just knowing already what I like and what I prefer, and um taking that time to really sleep on something, and then just if I'm still thinking about it months later, then I probably really like it for a couple of reasons that I've
Yeah, I
already
agree with
kind of
that. Yeah.
outlined. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I know we've mentioned in the past that like, oh, the perfect EDC doesn't exist.
Mm,
But it
yeah.
it am I getting this wrong where it sounds like you're waiting for the perfect EDC to pop
Oh, no,
up?
no, no, no. I'm perfectly aware of compromises that have to be made, and I am okay with those
Okay.
because I am accepting something for what it is, not what I want it to be.
Oh, that
There
is
is no
huge.
perfect EDC. There is something I am perfectly happy with,
Yeah.
rather than it being the perfect epitome of everything that it should be. That's the
Yeah.
difference, I think. Yeah.
I
I'm
want
not
to say
wanting this to be anything
briefly,
else. Yeah.
yeah, I want to say briefly, your approach, I think, would really work with all the single viewers out there around Valentine's Day who are maybe alone and looking for a partner. Like, just listen to what Mikey said, and then take everything he said about knives, replace it with the type of person you're into, or maybe the type of person that's actually good for you, and maybe you're
Yeah.
not into them yet. But
Yeah.
there you go. That's some good advice there. As for me, am I collecting gear or searching for the perfect item for me?
Mhm.
I think I was collecting gear because I didn't understand how to look for the perfect item for me.
Okay.
And now, something that comes to mind that was pretty insightful and has kind of changed my perspective on this is a quote from Mark Cho. Mark Cho is, I believe, the owner of like a menswear boutique. They specialize in a lot of watches. They've done some collaborations and stuff, but he's a big watch guy.
Mhm.
And he posted his like 12 rules for watch, or 12 principles for watch collecting, I believe. And number 10 says, learn to buy and sell. Mistakes are your tuition. Knowledge gained outlasts any watch. And I think that is pretty insightful, that mistakes are your tuition. So if you buy something and it turns out you didn't actually like it, you sell it, you're most likely gonna, take a haircut on that. You're gonna lose a little, especially if you're like me and you collect Grand Seikos, like those lose their value or whatever. If I end up wanting to get rid of those, and this applies to anything, then it's just like, well, that was the price to learn that like it didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of where I'm at. I have the experience of already having owned and used and discovering stuff that works for me and stuff that I prefer. And a lot of people won't be in that privileged position and are still gonna be searching for a long time and collecting, and that's definitely part of the journey. I feel like I'm coming to the end of my journey now that I'm
sure.
just finding stuff that really really resonates with me and really enjoying the heck out of them, rather than still constantly consuming and still searching for the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would love to get to that point with you. And I kind of feel that my collections of stuff, a lot of those collections are just stepping stones to realize what the actual grail or end game is, right? They just accumulate because it's not quite right. So, and it's very, very difficult for people without a lot of time and
And
effort to
money.
find what it is. Yeah, and money
And
and
money, yeah.
patience and all that to find what it is actually right for them.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't even know how to look for what's right for them or what is right for them. They might see things on the internet or things that people
Yeah.
tell them or whatever, just their
Bombarded.
external world.
Yeah.
Exactly. Bombarded by their external world, maybe not as in tune with what their actual tastes and preferences are, in a very honest way that you've shared many times on the show now, that like that's how you have arrived there. So it's pretty difficult.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So I would say I have collections of stuff, and I maybe am searching for some things to end that collector's journey. But I think Mikey brings up a great point in that maybe you don't search, maybe you just sit and hold your ground, comfortable and honest with who you are and what you like, and then wait for that thing that resonates to pop up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen overnight, and not everyone is in a place where that thing will pop up where it needs to be, right? So there is some like, I don't know, you kind of need to get there to figure it out, and then at the same time you don't want to be chasing the thing. So it's so abstract right now, actually. I'm just like actually worried that a lot of our listeners like, dude, what is bro talking about? But hopefully that makes sense.
Let me be a bit last bit more abstract. The feeling of that feeling is as fleeting as the thing you're chasing. That feeling of trying to settle down, being quiet, and being honest with yourself to truly assess if something needs to belong in your life. That feeling is as fleeting as that thing you're trying to get.
Sure.
I think is my bottom line there. And it's hard. Everybody's in a different place in their life. Everybody's in a different financial situation in their life. Everybody has different friend groups that they participate in every day and are bombarding them with information and opinions, that it's hard to find that quiet and make that decision for yourself. But eventually over a long enough period, I think you'll find your own peace and quiet and really be at peace with yourself and the stuff that you truly want, I think.
Yeah. And when that feeling comes, latch onto it and remember it. Emotional drop culture. Yeah. So
hold on.
Hope that you can grab that. So, okay. Great question. I don't know if we answered it. Sorry. But we did say something. There was an answer somewhere. We'll just jump into our user submissions now. We will start with this one from Quite the Knife Collector. This is from Nick Chosen One Martino. And they they said a lot of stuff on our website, which you can find on everydaycarry.com to accompany this submission. But we can jump really quickly. Just what are we looking at here first? So this is a Buffalo Bills fan, I believe. So we have the handmade Buffalo Bills Hank, and then the matching Bic lighter. Then you got the Olight Warrior Mini here Um, and then a green Leatherman Skeletal, and then they've got their knife rotation here. So this is the Protect Strider
yeah.
SNG, and then the Tonto version of the Spyderco Paramilitary 2.
Blade
and
HQ
then this,
exclusive, I believe.
Yep. I think because of the scale, right?
Yeah, scale and the Tanto, yeah.
Yeah. And then this is the Tops Knives Street Scalpel 2 Fixie. Small Fixie. Actually, not that small.
Shout outs to Fixies. Nice.
It looks small because it's compared to a PM2 and the Strider SNG.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so really cool knife collection here. And then just a lot of interesting like colors and textures and stuff going on. And then they did say that their stuff constantly rotates, so that's kind of why you see a bunch of different options here. It's I mean, depending on the knife fan, it's possible, but most likely not very likely that they're carrying all three of these, right? And yeah, they do have a question here, but before we get into that question, Mikey, do you have any thoughts on this, Scary?
Yeah, nice and colorful. Very interesting choice of mix of tools and colors. Strider, of course, one of the original trinity of knife makers, USA knife makers. They're partnering with ProTech in this one. I believe this is an automatic for the SNG, but this is a very popular tactical knife from back in the day. One of the most popular PM2s, also the Blade HQ exclusive in Tanto. I believe this is the only time they've done PM2 and Tanto. This
Dude,
exclusive.
I want this. Sorry.
It's sick.
I know we just had this whole conversation about like, it's like, yeah, I have a PM2 already, Blade HQ exclusive, S90V with the teal scales, but then like this one is...
It is sick though. And I do believe...
Cool. It's cooler.
I do believe it is one of a kind of this design. So it's got that jade... the raw G10 scales plus the Tanto that's unique to this exclusive. So I don't blame you. I kind of like it too. I kind of like the Street Scalpel more because I'm more of a fixie guy. Tops, one of the all-time most reliable and military approved, I believe. I've seen a lot of like servicemen carry Tops as their main knife in as part of their duty. So yeah, tried and true there. Really sick knife collection. And go Bills. I don't know anything about NFL.
They are not in the running.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So we're recording
maybe next
this
time,
right
Bills.
before the big game. Yeah, maybe next time.
Maybe next time, Bills.
But yeah, not this time. So they did have one question, and they said, I like hearing about how everyone else originally got into knives and EDC heavy. Like, what YouTube channels were you binging? In the beginning, I mean. Not now. Now everyone has a channel. That's funny because that's true. I have one. I'm asking in the beginning of your knife journey, who are the ones you guys were watching? So I have two answers.
I have one.
I have a feeling that they're the same as your answer because we started around the same time and basically these are the only people. So for me, it was Cutlery Lover and Nothing Fancy.
Right. Yep. Where are they now? We should check in on them. I don't know if they're still actually making stuff.
I don't know, dude. Cutlery Lover was sick because, like, I think his name was Jeff or something. I could be wrong, but he was sick because he posted like videos. It's like pure old YouTube. Yeah, he would review knives and whatever. Just because
45 minutes of top down.
Yeah, just no cuts, like no editing. Yeah, no 480p, just so sick and just very raw and authentic. But then he would also be like, "Hey, here's like I think he would do like, hey, here's a recipe. I'm cooking like this thing to like lose weight or something." I believe he like shared more personal stuff, which was kind of more just normalized on YouTube. Like YouTube was a very personal thing, and then it became so like branded, and like every channel has to be like a channel, right? Instead of just a person with a YouTube account.
Remember when people could video reply to the YouTubers? Like your comment was a video reply, and they were all tied in that way.
Dude, I remember when there was like, I think comments YouTube? Would be like annotations on the actual video itself, like little box,
the bubbles,
right? Yeah, the bubbles, dude. Old YouTube, so good. And then Nothing Fancy would also have some pretty solid reviews, I would say.
And his voice was so unique too, right? The pure New York accent of Nothing Fancy. Two different, slightly different answers. YouTube wasn't actually the start for me.
Okay.
I also took forever watching. It also took forever to watch videos from Cutlery Lover and None Fancy. That's why kind of my low attention span back then. I couldn't really take it.
Sure.
What really got me heavy was this. There was this blog on Tumblr. It was run by this a med tech student. I think it was called Everyday Carry.
Oh yeah.
That really got me into stuff. Paired with another OG guy that we featured in a previous show, Everyday Commentary. So Everyday Carry and Everyday
Hmm.
Commentary. Those are the two
Those are
blogs.
blogs. Yeah.
Those are the blogs at the time that really like jump started me and just like sent me off the deep end. Those two. I wonder what happened to those two. Yeah.
I think they're doing okay.
They're all right.
Um, yeah,
Collecting
that
rent
everyday
sake
commentary
episodes.
guy. Actually, like, we follow him on Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
still posting cool stuff.
I still read
Yeah,
his articles. Yeah. To
yeah,
this
yeah,
day.
yeah. So, but yeah, hopefully that was like a walk down memory lane. I don't know. Hopefully that satisfies your curiosity. And then again, like, thanks for sharing the cool knives. Sadly, I'm jealous of this one, but
Yeah.
I'll be okay. I have
Yeah.
enough. It'll be
We are
fine.
enough.
Yeah, that's true. So,
Yeah.
thank you for this submission, Nick Chosen One Martino, and then we'll move on to the next one. Ooh, this one is
Ooh.
from Red Herring 1448. So they are a plant foreman in Ontario, Canada. They said, "This is my daily carry for winter months. They usually have a coat for the climate in Canada, so it's easy to carry all this without feeling bogged down. And during the warmer months, they would slim the EDC down, usually by swapping out the Phoenix PD36R for a smaller Phoenix E18R, and then swapping the Leatherman Mutt out for the Knipex Cobra XS pliers if you're just using the
Nice.
pliers." And he says, "Being a cigar smoker, I love the thinness, or I love the slimness of the Zycar." I don't even know how to pronounce this. Xikar
The
XI
Google
cutters.
the pin map. The map pin looking thing.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drop your location.
Drop your
Along with the
location.
simplicity of a Zippo lighter upgraded with a double butane insert. And then
Classic.
they've been using Belroy products for several years, and they do admire the quality of the leather and the craftsmanship. And it's very slim and discreet, perfect for EDC. Definitely agree with you there. So, what do we got in the full breakdown here? So, we have a Belroy notebook cover, and then inside is the field notes, and then sitting on top of that is the Zebra F701. I think this is like one of the older ones that hasn't been fully modded to be
Mm.
metal. So you know that this one has been around for a while. Then
Yeah.
the there's another Belroy undercover wallet here, I believe, and
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, like they said, the Zippo, the cigar cutter, Leatherman MUT multi tool. I believe this one is more like the military aimed one where you can kind of like service your firearm in the field kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the Phoenix PD36R Pro flashlight, and uh, what else here? Oh, well, yeah, the Spyderco military is really big there.
Big
And then
boy. Yeah.
and then on the keychain, there's a couple of stuff here. So we got the Olight i1R Pro flashlight and the Kershaw Recap mini pry bar, and probably something else. I feel like this is a Swiss Tech utility that wasn't labeled, but that's what I'm thinking
Mm.
it is. And I'm thinking this is a Key Smart little shackle to keep the keys organized. Yeah.
Speaking of
And then the Apple Tech here.
yeah, speaking of legacy brands, save from the tech stuff on the right, most of the products in the brands here are one of like the OG of the OGs. Phoenix, Spyderco, Leatherman,
Mm-hmm.
Zebra, Zippo. These are all of like the ultra old school stuff that have been around for a while. And in addition to like really sick all black layout, yeah, tried and true tools with backups of similar tried and true tools.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty sick, yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate their sort of seasonality to their carry, where
Mm, that's
if they have the code on, then they know they can afford the bigger gear, so they go
more
for it.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of get a little bit more performance and functionality out of that approach, but then they know and they have the gear to handle when they
This one.
don't have as much.
Cool.
So
Not much
is
to say. Pretty sick, all black
yeah.
classics. no notes, really large tools. I will say though, I hope you have like
Mm-hmm.
a lighter. Your summer carry is a bit lighter. Mutt's one of the
I think it
biggest.
would be. Yeah.
Yeah, Mutt's one of the biggest Leatherman tools you can
Mm-hmm.
carry. Spyderco military is way larger than the PM2. I think this is like a 3.6, 3.7 blade or 3.8 even, if
I
not
know, right?
bigger.
It's like this, like full size flashlight is like the size of the handle. Yeah,
Right? And it's
yeah,
larger than the phone and everything. Yeah. So,
yeah. Quite a big blade there. Um, and then yeah, just to make things a little bit more wieldy, less unwieldy, they've got like the ring grip on their
mhm,
flashlight too, so that kind of
yeah.
helps. Um, so yeah, good mix of bases covered. You even have like the fire in there, so you got your slice, your right, your light, and also your fire there. So both
Hmm.
versions of the light. So just a very
Yeah.
expansive carry. Then you've
Yeah.
got backup tools here too. So a lot to like there. Very cohesive, very functional, looks good, good brands, good products. So
I would love to know what a plant foreman does. That sounds like an
mm.
interesting nature based job.
Well, no, no, not like I don't think it's like the literal plant, like
Oh, okay.
botanical plant. It's just
Gotcha.
like
Gotcha.
yeah, like a big
I
facility
was
type
I
plant.
was wishful thinking. We're talking
Okay.
plant as in factory, not actual like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I think is going on.
not an
All right.
arborist.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you, Red Herring 1448. Was that the Red Herring, the plant foreman?
Gotcha.
Is the
Got me.
misdirection? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This next one is from at Chushim. So Chushim is a military contractor,
Mm.
and dude, I love this, Gary. So they say the binder clip wallet I have is just the simplest and best system I have found. I do not doubt you. I think you could most likely
Fair.
afford something else. I bet that this is just really the best thing that you've tried. Then
Yeah.
they've got the Leatherman arc, which is constantly deployed from one small job to another. And then I love how lightweight the watch is and how simple and elegant it looks. For those of you who don't know, this is a Rolex Yachtmaster 42 millimeter in titanium, the first Rolex to feature what they call their RLX Grade 5 titanium. This was very difficult to get. It's like a $30,000 watch on the
What?
secondary market. Yeah, for titanium. So it's not even precious metal, but it does cost a lot more just because it's pretty sought after. Um, anyway, I'll get into that later. And then lastly, they have they said the pen is an amazing tool for both writing and potential self-defense. AirPods Pro keep them hands free when they're on the go. So we kind of went over everything here. I've already looked at this and have many thoughts, Mikey. But
Yeah.
what do you think about this?
If he had a surefire flashlight and $200 in that binder clip,
Uh huh.
I would have
Isn't 300 minimum?
300, right?
300 and like some ID. Yeah.
I would have been making kind of like small
Uh huh.
suspicious eyes
Mm-hmm.
at him. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like you said,
Are you a spy? Can you just like go up to somebody and ask, "Hey, are you a spy?" Yeah.
but like you said, he probably can afford any wallet he wants or anything he wants. If you're
Mm-hmm.
saying that the watch is at least 30 grand in the secondary. But yeah, Leatherman Arc and AirPods aren't cheap either.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what do you have to say? I'm interested to see. You were really fixated on this when I showed
Dude,
this to you.
this is like quiet luxury, if you know, you
Okay.
know.
Right.
Because it doesn't really scream blingy, which is really cool, right? But I mean,
Mm,
like this is an Amex Platinum card for a business, right? But they're a military contractor, so that's kind
mm.
of a lucrative
Is it
position
platinum?
there. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is the Amex
Yeah.
Plat, I'm pretty sure, but for business. Um,
Is that higher than the black card? Or is the
no,
black
black
card
card
still
is
higher?
invitation only. Not that
Okay.
I would know, like
Uh,
I'm in the realm of being considered for that. No, but I just yeah. So the Rolex is interesting because it's a Yachtmaster, which a lot of people. Sorry, I'm gonna like nerd out about watches. I don't often
I
get the
got something to say.
opportunity to.
I got something to say. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Rolex is the Yachtmaster 42 millimeter. Usually the standard one's around 40 millimeters, so this one's even bigger. But usually Yachtmasters are thought of as a Submariner in a dress, or like the blingier, dressier version of a Rolex Submariner, which is more of the classic tool watch diver, because it would have polished center links and a lot of polish, and then platinum rotating bezel, bidirectional, and then these just like bigger markers and hands. But on this version, since it's titanium, it's all brushed, and then the bezel is blacked out. So it's, and the dial is also like a matte black. So it's just a very subdued kind of look, and it's not even as shiny as the standard Submariner, which has like the ceramic bezel and the modern versions of it. So all in all, it looks more like a tool watch, but it does have that stealth wealth kind of factor to it. Not that that's like better or anything. It's just interesting. You don't see it often. So I do want to call that out and appreciate it, because I think this is something that would go under the radar. And if you wanted to keep it under the radar, sorry for blowing the spot. Just kind of a loudmouth in that way.
Exposing Chusum.
Yeah.
The Yachtmaster was
the
Yachtmaster was a feature in one of the Jack Carr books that I really like. He goes to an old spy, and then the spy was wearing like a classic blue and gold, the iconic Yachtmaster look. And and the spy was like, "Oh, I can see you're wearing like a '60s Rolex," and they're like, the watch became like a talking point between the two of them in that conversation. So yeah, that's one of the recent things that put me onto Yachtmaster. Would you say that the Yachtmaster was kind of like higher prestige than the Sea Dweller or Deep Sea?
They're so different. I think
so
they're
different.
so different.
You think?
But I would say that I wanted a Yachtmaster in rhodium and slate. So that was like the icy gray look with like a baby blue seconds hand that I thought was cool. But it's like $13,000-$15,000, dude. Like, no.
On the other side,
No,
I like the Deep Sea Dweller one over the.
Yeah, and that would fit your wrist better, I think. But anyway,
cool. This was EDC. like the if you know that really really made your eyes buck out. You were really latching onto this one when I showed this.
Yeah, because I was like, damn, I had not seen one of these posted online like often. This is like pretty hard. I've since to be honest, I've since like kind of distanced myself from a lot of the Rolex collector stuff, because I'm just no longer interested in Rolex. But from what I know, this was like a pretty interesting release a couple of years ago.
And it popped up in their submissions of all places.
Yeah, organically. Yeah, because it's I appreciate that it's innovation from Rolex in terms of material usage, and Rolex is very slow to innovate. Very slow. They don't need to innovate. There's such like a comfy spot. They can just slowly iterate and keep it safe, and then the business will be fine. So there's no incentive for them to like come out with new materials and new expressions of said material on maybe older silhouettes. So I thought that was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So thanks for that submission. Got a lot of attention. Maybe you weren't aiming for that, but I thought it was pretty cool. So thanks for that. And I think that just about wraps it up for today's episode. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Please hit the subscribe, share with a friend, and follow us on our socials. And if you want to be a part of our EDC community, feel free to hop into our Facebook group or Discord server for more real-time discussion with other EDCers. And lastly, if you have any feedback for us or questions you want answered on the show, you can shoot us an email at podcast@everydaycarry.com. So thank you so much for listening to Carry the Way. I'm Bernard.
And I'm Mikey.
And until the next one, peace.